Hello guys, welcome to today's video. I thought for this video we would get stuck into my Glencoe sketchbook, which I have shared on Instagram if you follow me over there. I often share the sketchbook pages on my feed, and also I've done a couple of part 1 and part 2 which I would have released yesterday of the sketchbook tour on Reels, but I just thought it'd be nice to dive into it and show you a little bit more detail and a little bit more in depth about the reasons behind the paintings, and also offer some tips and guidance on starting a sketchbook and just getting going really. So let's dive into it. I'm going to start with just kind of showing you the whole thing, and then we'll go into depth of a couple of paintings that are my favourites and the kind of meanings behind it. So I hope you enjoy, and I'll catch you again at the end. Right, we are going to have a flick through my sketchbook. I have done this on Instagram, a few sections of it, but I haven't done the whole thing. But I'm very nearly finishing it. But I thought you guys would like a sneak peek inside. It's actually some of my favourite work inside the sketchbook. I think just because I didn't put pressure on myself for the work to become something, it's all very loose and experimental, and yeah, I'll have a flick through and you guys can see. I will take some close-up shots of it afterwards as well, but majority of it is based on Glencoe. Some are full page spreads, others are sections. I do not have a tripod, so I am very carefully trying to balance my camera in my hand, so I'm sorry if it's a bit shaky. But I really like nearly every single sketch in this book, to be honest. It's amazing when you actually relax and just paint for yourself rather than with the intention of it becoming something and having to become a product, how enjoyable it can be and how freeing it can be. Some of them are very bold in colour, others more subtle. It's coming together really nicely, and I think I will actually do a postcard series from it. This page I was going to do a double page spread of Scottish wildflowers. I'm not really sure why I decided to do it in this Glencoe sketchbook. I'm kind of regretting it, so I might just stick something over the top of it, to be honest. I might just scan in the imagery so I have a copy and then just stick something over the top. I like this one, how bold the colours are in it. Lots of experimentation with new pens and pencils, limiting factors like only working in monochrome, seeing the result. This is the one that I shared in last week's video, how I was painting over the top, drawing over the top of it with acrylic pens because I didn't like the result. Some very subtle work, some very bold work, some just brush strokes. Oh, my pen, those are my paintbrush lid holders. Lid holders? Lid covers. And I think that is where we're up to. Yeah, so I don't have many pages left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 pages left and the book will be filled. But I really do love how it's come together. I'll just show you some close-ups of some sections of it now, of my favourite pieces. So this is from the view at the top of Sketchbook in Locken, and I think it's one of my favourite pieces just because of the company we were with when I painted it. I painted this when Maddie and Toby came to stay, and we took them up there, and Maddie also did a drawing. I probably can find it actually, because I think I have the sketchbook that she drew in. Let me just see whether I can find it. Yeah, I found it. So this is Maddie's beautiful drawing that she did. Very monochrome. I love it, love it, love it. I'm glad that I actually get to keep it in my sketchbook. So yeah, at the top of the hill we both did some sketching, which was so lovely. So lovely to have company whilst painting, because normally it's just me. And I like the layering of this. I did a lot of layering with it and played around with the marks that I was creating, so I think it works quite successfully, and it was kind of the first time, well, it was the first time I took the sketchbook out, and it was just lovely to have a play and take away the pressure of the sketch having to become something, and I really like the result because of that. Again, this is another favourite. I just think the colour balance worked really well within the sketch. I don't think I would do anything to it. I really like the marks that were created and built up over time to create this sketch using paint and then pencil and pen on top. I think it works really well. So another favourite, this one I wasn't too happy with. I just don't think it really worked. It's very dark and the house is very out of proportion, so don't love that. This week was another big play week, just lots of playing with balance of colour, trying to draw realistically again, just to keep that skill in check. This is definitely another favourite. I love the marks that I created within this, and I think it would make really beautiful abstract paintings, just sections of it, like this section over here as well would be beautiful. Down here, there's just so many hidden marks within the painting that I think you could actually make multiple paintings from this one painting itself. So this is definitely another favourite, and I think it would be nice as a postcard print. It was actually one of the ones that I used for the Christmas decorations. I put it on an ornament, which was lovely. These are very loose sketches, so it's really nice to just simplify everything. And I did these with my new Pro Mark pens that I got from Winsor & Newton, and I really like the results of them. Just as like almost nice warm-up sketches. I don't think I would ever really do anything with them, but I just like them being sat there in the sketchbook. And then this is another favourite. I like the balance of colour and the marks that are created. I think you could crop into it like this, so that it's tighter and it doesn't have the edges, but also I don't mind the edges. It's got, again, like the page before, has a lot of hidden marks within it, which I think are really beautiful and could become a really beautiful postcard, maybe like that, captured like this. So just cropped ever so slightly. A dreaded empty page over here. We'll have to fill that with something and try and incorporate these marks that have been left on the paper accidentally. And this is another favourite. I really like the colours that I used within this and the mark making. It's really strong, and just focusing on painting this one, it doesn't have any pen or anything in it, and I think that it worked really successfully. I think it's one of the first ones that I did where I was quite happy with just my mark making through painting and no need to kind of add anything else on top. I often feel like the painting itself isn't enough and you need to add something back on top of it to give it that really oomph that it needs, if that makes sense. But this one has lots of marks, quite a lot of texture within the paint as well. This was done in gouache paint, and yeah, very, very happy with it again. I think again, if it was cropped slightly and the edges were cut out, it would make a beautiful postcard. Now this sketch I absolutely love, and I think I love it more for the reasoning behind the sketch than the actual sketch itself. So it's a section of the Three Sisters, and I created it because I was early for the post office, so I decided to drive, because the post office is in Ballachulish, I decided to drive past Ballachulish and pop to Glencoe, and I actually just sketched it sat in the car, and I think the colour's really beautiful. It was autumn, so it was very orange and yellow, and I think I managed to capture that really well. And I actually had some random pencils in the car. I didn't have my like actual art set, so I was just using what I had, which was just a pen to kind of define some of the details, and then a couple of colours which fortunately were within the autumnal palette, so it worked really well. And I just like the fact that I was able to do it, and I think it just reminded me how close we are to inspiration and how I can just take little sections out of the day and make sure I go out and paint and get out in nature as well. It was kind of a very important reminder for me of that, which was very nice. Then this one, very, very colourful. I don't love it, but it was a good test to use colours that I don't normally use within my colour palette, and just try and play around with them. Some of the marks that the paint created I think are really nice, but I personally just don't love the colouring. These are a set of 6 sketches that I did, and I didn't spend too long on one in particular, and some of them I really like. I really like this one, and this one. So these 3 here, I think they're quite beautiful, and it made me think about potential circular products like circular coasters. I thought would be quite cool. And yeah, I just think that they were quite a nice result, just a nice quick test to practice skill level and see where it was at and kind of just warm up into the day. So I was quite happy with those. This was inspired by a photography account, I guess, yeah, she's a photography account that I follow on Instagram. And I just thought that the mirror image and the colours in the picture was what drew me to wanting to sketch it. And I think it's worked well. Doing, reflections is really difficult, because obviously the reflection is got that lovely kind of glazed effect over it because of the water, which is actually really hard to translate into art and into painting. So I think it kind of worked. It actually smudged over till this page, which you can see kind of here. So I actually just did a little doodle of a mountain in the corner to kind of cover it up, which I think worked well. And yeah, really quite happy with the result of that one. Really like the colours. Some sections of it, like the little details, I think work really well. Like these little yellow plant that I've added has worked really well. This one again is definitely up there in my probably top 10. I really like the colours I used in this. It's a very subtle purple, which I wasn't actually sure when I created it whether it would work or not. But I do think it works quite well because it's been reflected in the hills themselves. So I've added it in with the green, and I think that works pretty well. There's not too, I mean, it's quite textured, but there's not too much texture. Just enough to kind of suggest the hills themselves and keep the painting balanced. This one was a pretty wild sketch. So I actually did this, I think this one I did in one of our art club weeks. So we run like an art workshop for adults, like an art evening. Most of them play with the clay, but I just did this painting. And it's very moody is how I describe it. Very, very moody painting. I kind of like it. To start with, I just had these really strong ink, because I played with ink this time, these really strong ink marks. And I liked it, but I didn't really like the colours of the ink just because they are so bold. I then went back in on top with pencil and started layering it, and I like these marks at the edge which have been added. I think they kind of balance it out. So then in the end I was quite happy with that as a result. This one, very, very subtle and a huge contrast to the one before in terms of colour. It's quite muted, the colour. Still very bold, but just not as in your face. And this one, I think I spent a lot longer building up the layers of colour and kind of translating that layering effect, which worked really well. And again, in these front sections, which I was trying to suggest like heather, obviously it's not really the colouring for it, but I do think it works quite well. And just slowly building up those marks. And this feels like it's hidden lots and lots of marks within it. And again, I feel like you could take sections from this painting and translate them into mini paintings themselves. Almost like if you split it into 4, it would make 4 beautiful little mini paintings. So very happy with that. Again, another shot of the buckle, which I think worked well. It's quite painterly. The marks are very strong. It was very quick, this sketch. I think again, if I cropped it to kind of like this, it would look really nice. So I'm quite happy with that. Again, I quite like these marks in the foreground that I've done and translated. We won't talk about those because, like we said, they were just plants, shouldn't really be in the sketchbook. This one was a really bold one. I actually saw this image on Flickr. Yeah, so I saw this image on Flickr and I just fell in love with the colour and how bright it was. I think it must have been a really powerful sunset, so I thought I would translate it, and it is a lot looser, just because there's so much going on with the colour, but I do quite like it. There's a lot of thickness in the paint, which is creating some beautiful textures in itself. And yeah, I was really quite happy with how that turned out. Again, I think it would be beautiful if I just cropped it ever so slightly, just so it didn't have the harsh edges in the painting, so it kind of looked like that. And I just need to clean up the line for the book. This is another favourite of mine. I think if it was zoomed in a little, I think it would make a really beautiful postcard sketch. I really like the colour and the balance of colour in it. I think I could do to just heighten the vibrancy on it on Photoshop to just make it slightly brighter, but I think the mark making that I've done is really nice and very, very subtle. There's not too much going on in it, which I actually really... So my camera has run out of storage. Again, I need to get another memory card and just have a spare one. But I just wanted to quickly show a couple of other sketches in detail that I particularly love. I particularly love this one. I just think it was really interesting to play with monochrome, and if you haven't done it, try it. Or if you are ever worried about colour and feel like you don't translate colour correctly, going back and stripping it back to black and white can be so important, just to make sure that you are translating what you want to translate visually, and then colour can come second, because I think it can be really kind of overwhelming trying to translate something and then also think about the colour that you're translating it in. And I definitely was super scared of colour up until probably when I moved up to Scotland, and just felt a lot freer with it. All of my illustration that I did for the print company that I worked for in London, I would do black and white pen illustrations, and then I would colour fill it on Photoshop, so I'd actually never ever draw in colour, which is crazy to me now looking back, because my work is so colourful now. So it's really crazy to see the difference, and then you can start thinking about colour, and then you kind of can work with translating these highlighted areas and these shadows areas that you want, and translating them through the colour. So using brighter colours or lighter colours to translate those highlighted areas, and then using those darker tones to translate those shadowed areas. So that's how you can then translate it through into your work to make them colourful. But maybe I'll do a complete other separate video on that, on using colour. This was a very loose one, very bright, very yellow. I think I was in a good mood that day. Yellow is one of my favourite colours, so I often use it when I'm in a good mood. And this was very, very subtle. I really enjoyed just working with a couple of brush strokes and then adding some texture details on top. And again with this one, this I think I was testing myself using limited brush strokes. I think it's actually only got 15 individual brush strokes in it. And what I mean by that is not taking the paintbrush off of the paper. So like the yellow was done in I think 2 brush strokes, and then this was done in 1, and then adding the green on top in a couple, and then building that way. So it's a really good test if you want to test yourself. I would recommend trying limited brush strokes, marks, continuous line drawing as well, so you don't take your pen off of the paper at all, and you just try and translate what you're trying to translate in one kind of movement on the page. It's really interesting to see the results that you will get. And then this one, very colourful again. Yeah, a very happy sketch. So yeah, that is the sketchbook, and that is all of the paintings in it so far. I feel like it's come a really long way, and I just think some of the results have been really beautiful, just kind of allowing myself that freedom to sketch without intention. And I think moving forward, I think that's genuinely how I need to translate art, because the result is so much more beautiful than when I am pressurizing myself and putting that pressure on that this needs to become a, I don't know, say mug design, or this needs to become a new art print. Putting that pressure on yourself can really limit your ability and kind of almost gives you an art block. So I think it's really important to have a safe space that you feel like you can just play. You don't have to love everything. Like, you know, like I was saying, there is some things in here that I think it's the second page, isn't it? Oh no, third page maybe, the third page. I don't love it at all. I would quite happily stick something over the top of it, I think. And I think that's why I've left this blank page next to it, because I just don't want to look at it. So I probably will stick something back on top and just work back on top. There's no shame in things not working how you wanted them to work. It's all about having a safe space to play and have fun and develop your skills and push yourself without feeling the pressure of your work having to become something and the value of it at the end of it. You know, use the time freely and use it as time to develop your skills and also just to have fun. I think it's so easy as a illustrator to kind of get lost in your work, and also the boundaries between creating art for work and creating art because you love art and that's why you wanted to create this as a job get so blurred that it becomes really hard to give yourself time to create just for the sake of creating, because you feel like you have this pressure over you where you feel like you need to create stuff and sell to make money, and actually that, you know, it should come second to the painting and the painting process itself. So I think that's really important, and I would highly recommend getting yourself a little safe space sketchbook where you can sketch. And I just limited myself and just said this is going to be my Glencoe sketchbook, because I just wanted to kind of almost not set boundaries, but just kind of box it in a little bit, so I wouldn't feel overwhelmed and I wouldn't have this kind of overwhelming feeling of, oh, I don't know what to translate, I don't know what to draw. It's a Glencoe sketchbook, so as soon as I pick it up I know that I'm going to translate something in Glencoe. And if you just make it somewhere that you love or something that you love, whether it's flowers, a particular type of flowers, it could be a particular place, a particular type of building, music, if you paint to music, it could be anything like that. Just set yourself, if you're struggling to start, setting yourself some limitations within your sketchbook will really help you focus on what you're translating and give you that kind of direction that you need to be able to feel free and creative, but know what you're doing and not feeling that overwhelming feeling of fear that you don't know what to paint or you don't know what to draw because you could do anything. And I think that is sometimes the scary part of sketchbooking, because you just think, oh, I'm sat down with with a literal blank page. I could make this absolutely anything I wanted to make it, but what? And the blank page just stares at you and you just kind of stare at this blank spot for so long. So I think just tell yourself, okay, this is going to be my wildflower sketchbook, or this is going to be my summer sketchbook. You could do it seasonal. This is going to be my winter or autumn, and maybe that you just set yourself a color palette so you work within those color palettes, or you translate things that remind you of that season, a place, a person. It could be absolutely anything, but I think just giving yourself a limiting factor will really, really help you get started sketchbooking. But yeah, I'm gonna call it a day here. I don't know how long this video will be. I'm about to find out when I edit it. Hopefully it's not been too rambly and it's been enjoyable to actually see a little bit more in depth my sketchbook, because I know the reels on Instagram are super quick, so you don't really get to see that much of it. And yeah, I hope you've enjoyed having the flick through, and I hope it's inspired you to buy yourself a sketchbook. If you want to know, this sketchbook is a moleskin mixed media sketchbook. The pages are super, super thick and can handle gouache, acrylic, watercolour really, really well. I'm just kind of showing you pages that have something on the back so you can see that they've not come through at all. Markers, you can't really see, to be fair. Some markers you can see a tiny bit as they come through, but it's never too much. So yeah, pick up a sketchbook, pick up some pens, pencils, whatever it is that you want to try, and just get started, and I promise you, you will feel amazing at the end of it. And that is it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this sketchbook tour, and it was okay. I'm sorry I didn't have a proper tripod. It's in the workshop and I'm currently carless, which is becoming a little bit of a nightmare. I did the whole of last week without a car, which is why this video is at home. But I hope you enjoyed it nonetheless, and you got to kind of have a little nosy into this Glencoe sketchbook and how it's going. I'm really happy with it so far, and I really hope that it's inspired you to pick up a sketchbook yourself. You can get them in most places, most stationery. I know, like, even like WH Smith's, if you just have a WH Smith's near you, they have sketchbooks in their art department section, or if you've got an art shop, or Amazon is a great option, or Casa Art, I think it's called, is a great online store for art supplies. So go and grab yourself a sketchbook and whatever you would like to try and have a go with translating art into, and just get started. I hope this video has inspired you to do that. That's why I wanted to do it, to just kind of give you a little insight into how I sketch, why I sketch, and hopefully a little bit of inspiration to get you guys going. So I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have, please make sure that you give the video a like and subscribe to my channel if you are new and this is the first video you're watching. I also do studio vlogs and painting videos, and yeah, I will catch you guys next week. Have a good week.